capitalizing on players that don't do what you expect is basically how I think GMs should operate. So today I'm going to tell you a small story from my D&D stream about what actually happened and then what I think I could have done better, because everyone can always do things better. So the D&D stream went really well. One thing, however, I feel was towards the end, I didn't capitalize on a very interesting, it's basically a mistake that the players made, and it was very entertaining. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like, thinking back on it, and kind of extrapolating this into the future, I could have done some things differently. And so I'm going to start with the story, which is our group of adventurers have gone into what is essentially hell. And they've discovered a prison which contains all sorts of fire elementals and fiends and evil-looking creatures, and an exploded cell with the bars bent and everything. Lots of things are on fire. There's lots of lava, brimstone, slightly sulfurous smell in the air. And in their explorations, what the players do is go up to one of these cells, and inside they see what is basically a blob of lava that then, as they approach the bars, turns into a globby little humanoid figure just made out of melting lava. The first thing that happened was that the barbarian decided to talk to this monster in Infernal, and amazingly, they got a reply, kind of echoing through this giant prison hall of, "Ooh, there's new people here." And so the rogue got really close to the bars of this prison cell with a fire monster inside, and was surprised to learn that she had to do a dexterity save as it blew fire at her. And fortunately, she got a crit, and I decided that meant that she dodged out the way, didn't even take the half damage that she normally would, because it wasn't in combat. And then they decided to question it. Like, why are you blowing fire at us? What's going on here? Why are you in prison? And they got very confusing answers along the lines of, well, I broke in here. I came here. I was told to come here, and now I'm looking for a way out. And this confused the barbarian. So the barbarian was like, "Okay, well, we'll get a bit closer, take a look, and sort this out." So he got really close, and he rolled a natural 20 to dodge out of the way of the fire that this thing blew at them. So this goes on, and this is where I made my mistake. So what happened was that they eventually got really frustrated, both as characters and as players, and so I decided to resolve the situation caused by their failure to roll anything above a 10 in their perception checks that they were asking for. So a dog figure poked its head out of the broken cells and was like, "Oh my god, you're real. I thought you were voices in my head." And so they looked at the dog, looked at the fire monster, looked at the dog, and were like, "Oh, so you're the person we've been talking to for the last 20 minutes. And that was really very funny. Because I'd been basically talking as this dog person from their perspective, who incidentally had gone a bit la-la from being imprisoned in hell. So really, it was a coincidence that just jammed itself together really nicely. And that will happen a lot, and it has happened all over the place when you're playing, because the players never ever do what you expect. So quick piece of advice: don't anticipate them. Just don't guess what they're going to do. Set up a situation and let them bumble through it. And it was hilarious, and I think it went well. And they had this realization moment, and then they had a conversation with it was actually a gnome using disguise self to make themselves look like a small dog person humanoid thing, and surviving on mushrooms that have made them gone mad in hell. And it was a kind of a whole lore thing that I dumped on them, basically. But let's go back to the mistake. I don't think it ended up poorly. And generally, people don't notice your mistakes. They just kind of move on from one thing to another, unless like you've done something really nasty to them or their character. People forgive and forget, and they don't see your internal thoughts. But I'm kind of disgorging? Is that a word? I'm kind of spreading them out here for all to see what I was thinking. I was racking my brain. I literally just wanted them to have this funny moment, then talk to the gnome. But the thing is, I had prepared what the gnome wanted, and I could have used this in a far more interesting way. What the gnome wanted was to be free of the prison. While they weren't literally stuck in their prison cell, the prison itself was heavily guarded by old magics that prevented them from leaving once the thing they'd let out of the prison had escaped. So they basically got swapped for it and stuck there. And now that the adventurers had come in, they had an opportunity to come out. And that could have interacted nicely with the kind of gate, the magical prison gate that I'd set up. And I think now they'll probably not interact with it. Basically, it was a one-in, one-out system. And they didn't really get this, but whatever. It's one of those things that I will probably recycle later on. So, I could have had and built upon that moment, and this is kind of a skill that I'm working on, building on the improvisations of these characters and making it more fun for them. I could have made it more fun for them by saying, okay, please let me out. And obviously they would have been talking to a lava monster. It was a magmin, by the way. It wouldn't have been a problem for them. It was just one magmin in a prison cell for reasons, it was just a bit of flavour that I didn't expect them to be interested in. I was like, there's a magmin in that cell. But they looked closely, and I could have got them, or at least I could have asked them to let the magmin out, and then they would have had to fight this magmin, who probably would have tried to escape, and then the magmin would have counted for one out of the 4 in, so 3 of them could have left, but one would have been stuck at this magical gate, and then the helping the dog out would have been a problem. So I could have capitalized on it better. That's what I think. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. Stuff like this happens, and when you're in the middle of a game, I feel like you can't expect yourself to use the power of hindsight at all. But what I feel like I could have done better, and maybe you will use this for yourself or have experience with this. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. But what I should have done was just paused for a bit, thought about it, looked through my notes, seen the I want to get out kind of drive for this gnome character I'd created, and then used that and brought that into the fiction, and then use that to help out this moment, because DMs have a lot to think about, and I don't think you should, or at least I used to expect myself to be constantly talking and interacting and providing flavour and dialogue for the characters. But really, the players will do that work for you. And kind of offloading some of that work to them, but also, more importantly, taking a quick pause to collect your thoughts and use an unexpected situation to build drama in some sense, or conflict or fun, is good, because not only will you have time to think about exactly where all the little threads that you're pulling on are coming from and going to, if you don't say anything, your players are going to start to get paranoid. And that's my favourite thing, because paranoid players make silly decisions. When they don't have all the facts, when they don't know exactly what's going on, when you're making dice rolls behind the screen in any, in any sense, they're going to start thinking too hard. And it verges on metagaming sometimes, but this is where a lot of the fun can come in. Where I think if you get time to think, the players get time to overthink, which means their characters would probably have a little bit of time to think as well. So it's a balancing act between that they have to do between not metagaming, but also having an awareness of what their character would and wouldn't know in a very or increasingly tense situation that you have made. Because at the end of the day, it's a game. You can't extract the fiction out of the real world table that you are sat at. Whatever you do as a GM, the players will pick up on, and therefore it will have an impact on the characters. And I think using that pause, that moment, to build on a drama and basically use the stuff you've already created for yourself. It can be really simple like that. Can really elevate the fun in a game. And like I said, I wish I'd done it better. I'm going to think about that in the future, but I'm not going to beat myself up about it, because everyone had fun anyway. Unless they watch this video, they're not going to know. So hopefully you've enjoyed this kind of unusual story, this kind of DMing side of things as opposed to playing a character, which I hope to do a bit of both in the future. If you want to catch me streaming D&D, go to twitch.tv/gamingftl on Monday at 9 p.m. England time, whatever time that is for your part of the world. Please join me there and we can have some fun just hanging out with my friends and playing D&D. So, until next time, if you want to support me on Patreon, please do. But otherwise, just enjoy the stories that I will release every weekend for you. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. But until next time, Mustache.